This is the Slots and Sockets podcast, episode number 90. I am one of your hosts, IRD Moose, and my partner in crime,
Turbo Penguin.
Hey Turbo, happy Tuesday and Christmas Eve to you and to all of you out there in internet land. How you doing today?
Eve.
Yes, Christmas Eve. The Eve for Christmas Eve.
Yes.
The Eves of Christmas.
The Eve of Christmas Eve.
Yes.
Double Eve.
Yes.
Eve twin.
I think we're belaboring the point now.
Yeah. So we want to kind of we've got a couple of things we haven't talked about recently, and we just want to touch on one thing that we may see at least sometime in the first maybe quarter of next year.
Definitely,
and that is
the second half. But yeah,
I think we might. I think it's closer than maybe we think.
Possible.
But big Battlemage. Intel has. We've seen a couple of things. We've seen reference to BMG G31.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen that in not only their own software tools, but we've also seen shipping manifests. And the interesting thing is in the shipping manifest, it specifically calls out a 300 watt part. So, and the naming structure does go along with the big Battlemage that we were expecting we would not get. That would be the B770.
Right.
And if you're shipping things, it would make you believe that maybe this thing is a legitimate thing. Now, here's the question I have. I would love to hear the agreement or understand some of the agreement between NVIDIA and Intel, because this could be something worth looking into only if you think that you have long-term support.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, if the B770 is a legitimate thing that comes to consumers and Intel sells it, and let's say it performs marginally well for its value and cost, is it something that we would recommend? And I think the loaded question on this is, how much is it? What's the performance?
Yep.
And I think if both of those are very positive, then the follow-up question you have to think yourself about before buying one is, do you think Intel will actually support it?
Yeah. Which is the same question you kind of have to ask about AMD stuff now.
I mean, there's some truth to that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm torn. I want Intel to do this, but I also kind of look at this and I'm thinking that is a very interesting thing, because I don't think anyone really kind of expected.
Yeah.
Because even then they were like very not, like, even when they were asked, like Tom Peterson was asked on a couple of times different podcasts, and he never gave a positive inclination that was coming. So I'm just kind of interested to see kind of what that is.
Yeah.
More details to come, but in all honesty, if it's real, I could see someone liking it. So that's always a good thing.
Well, I mean, Intel has been putting in some significant effort into their Battlemage GPUs, so they do deserve some credit there, because they've come quite a long way from where they launched with the Alchemist line. Because I mean that was rough, and granted the Battlemage cards have been kind of rough too, but we expected that because they're like, well, we're not going to have a big chip out, so yeah.
I would expect this the Battlemage, the G31, to be something that comes around and comes out at the same time that we see Panther Lake from Intel at CES. I think that's probably going to be the biggest graphics card that, if I rephrase that, that's going to be the only graphics card release that we're expecting at CES this year.
Mm-hmm.
We there was thought that maybe you'd see a Super Series. That's not happening. In fact, they're spooling down consumer and moving that capacity to data center.
Yeah.
AMD has got. I think they might have something they could do, but I don't think they're. The question is if they'll do it. We never really thought that, like, if there was a 9080 XT,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was really ever a push that we would see that the first half of this year. If anything, the notion was is that might be something as maybe a response to a super, but if NVIDIA kills off the super, that may just kill off 9080 XT as well,
Yeah.
which the honest truth is that I don't know if either of those would bring in the demand to get the sales that they would hope for. Because right now, with RAM pricing the way it is, a lot of people aren't looking for system upgrades.
Yep.
So, I the honest truth, the concern I have with RAM pricing more than anything else is that this is really going to hurt some of these manufacturers because people aren't going to be upgrading.
Yeah.
Asus is
It's
going to is going to have some. It isn't going to do well. They're not going to sell stuff. MSI is not going to sell stuff. I'll to be honest, AMD will sell things because they're going to sell things on the data center side. But if for the consumer only facing piece, I could see this being a difficult time. And I don't know. There's a lot of changes coming, but the notion that NVIDIA is cutting back a good chunk of resources
mm-hmm.
for consumer graphics, I don't really think is really going to throw anything for loop. I think what's happening more is that there's not sales to support the number, and they don't want to flood the market. And
Yeah.
it would make a lot more sense to just put that silicon into something that is going to sell rather than sit on a shelf. So that's an interesting view. And then the other one that we have that's news that there's a registry edit, a registry hack that changes Windows 11
Mm-hmm.
from the driver from an NVMe from ACH into true NVMe, and it does have a bump in the performance. Now, this was originally tested with an MSI Claw, so I'm not sure we've seen everything to see if that's something that's like, is that is that a MSI Claw thing? Is that something that we're seeing across like AMD and Intel? But the notion is that on Windows Server to the 2025, they did release native drivers for NVMe, and you're seeing it. So, and I believe that this registry, these registry keys are actually coming from the server side, and they just by chance do work on Windows 11. I would maybe try that on a test system before I did it on my main system.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
at
that's
least
what backup images are for.
yeah, I mean,
I mean, if you
I'd be
blow it up,
cautious to
worst
just
case
do it on something
scenario.
that's yeah, but
Yeah.
um it could have some benefits. I mean, the
Yeah.
numbers here 7-10%. The question is though, is nowadays, um if you have a Gen 4 or Gen 5 SSD, Um, the truth of the matter is that your slowest piece is now probably your network card, not um your solid state.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Most people's network card is the slowest, and their internet is probably the slowest piece of their whole system.
Yep. Well, I mean,
Um,
definitely is for me. But yeah, one of the things that kind of caught my eye in the article was the benefit of getting 45% less CPU usage. And, if you've ever done huge volumes of file transfers on your NVMe drive, your CPU does get used quite a bit, a lot more than you would expect. And so that, even on a desktop system, would be helpful, but especially on a handheld like the Claw, that's gonna really help because you're not burning that 15-watt CPU just to handle data transfers. So it certainly improves the efficiency, it seems like. That is if it works. And, it does require a registry edit, so I will caution everybody there, don't use it if you aren't intimately familiar with working in the registry. Turbo, I'm sure, would have no issues doing it. I know I'd have no issues doing it, but if you don't know what you're doing, don't go in the registry and start adding stuff because that's a great way to break your system.
don't do dumb things.
Yeah. That rule number 1, don't do dumb stuff.
Um, the truth of the matter is that this is a shortcut for something that we're expecting to see
Yeah.
in devices, natively here soon. So
Yep.
this is something that if you're like, guess what? You're gonna get this as full support from Microsoft probably within the next 2-3 months.
Yep.
So if you're like, ooh, should I just wait? If
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing, just wait. Um,
And Microsoft will deliver it with the next vibe coded AI slop update that will spy on you even more.
yeah, pretty much.
Congratulations.
Exactly.
Or you could go to Bazite and use it natively already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's all the hardware news. We're going to be taking a little bit of hiatus between Christmas and New Year's. We'll be back after the first of the year, but we wanted to just kind of talk, at least just briefly, on some of the interesting things we saw in 25 and maybe some things that we saw in 26. Just as kind of like a year in review and hope for things better. So,
Yeah.
you know, sorry, I'm going to bring up just like two things of things that we kind of saw um, the year in review as we kind of look backwards. Um, the one thing my positive thing for the review is going to be um, probably the evolution and maybe more competitiveness of AMD on the
Yeah.
Radeon side.
That's
I
yeah.
feel like the 9000 series has done really well, and um, I would argue that the drivers and software are absolutely way better. Um, and I think that we've seen a closing of the gap between the Radeon and the GeForce counterparts.
Mhm.
Um, the drivers have matured very, very well. Um,
And devolved on the Nvidia side.
I think in some respects, yes, but we also haven't we haven't seen increases like we have on the Radeon side, and
True.
so I think that would be one of my two positives um, for the year, and then my other positive thing, um, I'm going to say, um, other than GPU availability, I mean that was super nice. Um, but and for in all honesty, throughout all of 25, GPUs have been fairly reasonably priced. So on the graphics card things, I see that as a positive thing.
reasonably priced in the last for the last quarter.
Yes.
Up to that point, it was pretty insane. To be
Yeah.
fair, the 5090 is still insanely priced, but you now have cards that are legitimately selling at or around MSRP,
Oh,
which
you find under MSRP on the
even
90
better,
series.
even
Yeah,
better.
even better.
And that's a good thing, but they're still wildly overpriced. Like the
Yeah.
MSRP is ridiculous.
Well,
So I mean, it's kind of trying to take the good with the bad, basically. So yeah,
yep.
I mean, point made.
And then for my next year, of the good, my hope of the good is APUs. I hope that we
Yeah,
start seeing more and more frequently APUs with stronger that are focused on gamers.
sure. Well, and
Because
yeah, AMD's certainly poised to do that. That I think is would be a great move because I have a 5700G in my server, and that thing actually performs surprisingly well. Um, the 9000 series CPUs,
yeah.
really decent performing GPUs. Like if I didn't need it for gaming, I'd be more than happy with it because it does everything. So yeah, I love that.
So what's your good for 25? Those are two good things, or at least one.
Oh, two good things. I you remember that sensor panel you were looking at from Corsair?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. I really like what they did there. I now
Okay.
granted, don't really care for what Corsair's been doing with IQ, but that sensor panel is freaking cool. And it's a lot like one I used to have way back when. Um shoot, that was like 2012, 2013 that did something very similar and ran over USB. And so I think that'd be a good a good thing to make a comeback because who couldn't use an extra sensor panel? I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think this year's kind of been I don't want to say resurgence, but we're finally seeing OLED really come into its stride on the monitor space, not the television space, because we've had OLED for um 15 years or more on the television side. But what I'm talking about is just our normal desktop monitors where they're finally starting to get down to a reasonable price range. You got really good quality displays and they've effectively solved the burn-in issues.
Yeah,
It at
that's
this
correct.
point, unless it's ridiculously cheaper to get LCD, if you're buying a monitor in 2025 and going into 2026, there's really no point to get anything other than OLED because it's
I
just easier to read.
I think OLEDs are going to be pushing for some replacement. For it's going to be a change because it is a big change
Yeah.
between LCD, even mini LED, which was good.
Yeah. Which
The
I mean,
OLED
that's what
is
I've got.
better.
Yeah, my
So
my my mini LED monitors are phenomenal and they don't have the typical ghosting issues that you get, or the halos that you get around like a brown bright stuff. LG did a good job with with these ultra gears that I have. But OLED, you can't beat it. I will play for days on my TV more than I play on my ultra wide just because the picture quality is that much better.
he's hiding.
Infantus interruptus.
He's hiding. He's
He was
getting
digging
ready.
for gold. Yes, that
He's
was our special guest visitor.
yes. Well, he's excited because tomorrow is we're having some of our Christmas a day
Oh,
early. So, um,
interesting.
you know, I think uh, I don't know. I'm hopeful this RAM thing isn't as bad as it is, but I'm just concerned that it can spread out to other areas. The other thing I would love to see, I would love to just see the absolute fail of this AI bubble
Yeah.
and the absolute pop. And because I really believe that's the only thing that's keeping some of these prices inflated.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
if that does, that's going to have a really negative impact with a lot of these tech companies, and you're going to have tech companies just completely disappear
Well,
um,
it's going to
overnight.
wipe out it's going to wipe out company valuations that are greater than multiple countries combined GDP. So it's going to hurt when it pops, and it's going to hurt everybody. But, I mean, kind of circling back a little bit, you know, I definitely don't wish that to pop in 2026, but I I think it's something we kind of have to deal with as like a band-aid ripping off sort of situation. But what I'm actually wishing for 2026 is $1 per terabyte storage. Whether it's spinning Rust or NVMe, I don't care. I want $1 per terabyte. The old wish used to be $1 per gig. Let's get $1 per terabyte. Let's get those exabyte drives out there, people.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how storage, because right now storage is making a run.
Mhm.
The spin drives are sold out for, uh, quite some time down the future.
Yep.
Um,
And shortages like this have a habit of pushing companies to significantly increase storage density too, because if you get a bigger SSD, you don't have to buy quite as many of them to get
yeah,
the same amount of storage.
maybe my hope for next year is that maybe we break that that consumer SSD size limitation, because I mean,
Yeah.
really, yeah, I think there are a very select few of 8 terabyte SSDs,
Mhm.
um, but it'll be interesting to see if we can get past that, or if maybe 8 becomes a more normal size, and maybe the a 12 or a 16 becomes the stretch. But I don't know if there's going to be a push into the flash side of things. I'm not sure we'll necessarily see that. I can hope for it, but
Yeah, well, and I don't know that we're gonna necessarily see it culminate next year,
no,
but
maybe it'll change.
they're pushing for it. And
Yeah,
some, think this happens in the industry anyway, is we'll get a long period of nothing major happens, and then somebody will make that breakthrough that just uncorks the dam for everybody. And all of a sudden, you go from, oh, well, I got this 1 terabyte and I'm the coolest thing on the block. And then 2 weeks later, they just came out with a 4 terabyte drive.
yeah.
So,
It,
I mean, I
it
think we'll
has the
probably see
ability to
that.
change that
Yeah,
quick for sure.
sure, sure. And that's kind of the fun thing about doing a show like this, because we don't know what the future's going to hold for us. It's a lot of times with good news like that, it's Christmas every day.
I mean,
So,
honestly, if I had to think of what I think is going to happen in 26, um, and maybe this is maybe guessing, I think it's going to be the dawn of small, um, very powerful APU powered machines
yeah,
that are surprisingly good. And if they can be at a good price point, those little guys are going to run havoc. And it's going to be hard to. I think the honest truth is if those do really well, um, you could see that becoming a dominant force in PC gaming,
sure.
or just gaming in general. Um, you know, we've got Xbox going away as a service and becoming more purely as a brand.
Hmm.
Um, and if everything's going APU side, um, that's positive for manufacturers because they sell you a whole new system every time you want an upgrade rather than upgrade piecemeal.
Yep.
And I think that all manufacturers would prefer to see that rather than what DIY or what they're doing right now. Um,
For sure. I mean, it would definitely lock you into buying a bigger and better every couple of years instead of, oh, I'm just going to swap my GPU now. But I think really what we got to do is get to the point where AMD starts shipping APUs with power that falls in the class of the 9070. I think that's really kind of the sweet spot where pretty much the majority of gamers are trying to target right now for performance. Um, and when I say the 9070, I don't mean it needs to absolutely beat that performance. I mean, when they release it, it should be in that performance class. So whether it's a 1070 or, or 10D70 or whatever the heck it is, that sort of mid-range plays all the games reasonably well, but doesn't necessarily play it on ultra quality kind of GPU. The other thing I think that systems like that probably should have is a slot for graphics memory rather than just system memory. I think if they slotted the graphics memory on
it would be nice, but I
on the
think they're.
GameCube, yeah,
I mean, if you look at the AI Max and what AMD is doing, they're just putting one set amount of memory that's on the board, and you can configure more or less depending on what you need.
I mean, that would work too.
I think that's exactly what we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see anything different from that. Shared memory rather than dedicated.
Well, and the PlayStation, I think, has proved that memory regime works too. So if they just load a board down with GDDR6 or GDDR7 and you end up with 128 gigs, that's like, okay, well, I can do 96 gigs of system memory and 32 gigs of graphics memory, and you could do all the AI and all that stuff that you need to with it. Why would you need something bigger than a GameCube? I mean, realistically, how many drives are you keeping your system?
But the honest truth is if these AMD APUs really kick off and go really well, you could see this moving so quickly that you have Steam Deck and Steam Machine really kind of becoming obsolete from a hardware perspective so super quickly, depending on how fast it goes.
Sure.
But look, we just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you guys next year in 2026. We hope everyone is safe and has a wonderful tech-filled Christmas. And until next time, we will see you guys in 2026.
Indeed. And on that Jingle Bells bombshell. The Jingle Bombshell. Yes.
The Jingle Bombshell. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Have fun storming the castle.